damage done to his back. So this episode, no one that follows us on YouTube has heard of our next guest. What happened with this individual was we started out last June of 2020 at the end of that, and we had a different studio, and we're only able to release his episode on audio, and it's about time. We wanted to bring you, John, back anyways, but I think it's a much better time now. The YouTube platform is growing. Want to get you on there, and so welcome, John Mbugua.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome back, buddy. I think it's imperative from the story and life that you've had to share that with, the world and also talk a little bit about, what transpired throughout your life. It's truly a remarkable, resounding story. And then also talk about kind of what you were doing when you got to America and kind of what transpired there, and then what everything looks like now in the organization that you have. So this is kind of like what we want to touch on, and it's an honor and a privilege to have you back with us. And I'm glad you've been doing well during the pandemic and everything. Still here, still fighting the good fight.
Yeah.
And welcome back, buddy.
Thank you.
Of course. So first thing we'll touch on, I don't want to. That's why I was asking you about it before we started. So, what you survived, you come from Africa, correct? And
Yes.
and in order for you to even be here with us right now, you survived a lot of things. And the first thing we'll touch on, which is what I want you to explain to everyone watching and listening, is you survived ethnic cleansing, which is a bit different than genocide, is what you're saying. Is that correct?
Yes, genocide is different. It's relatively different. Genocide, you target one type of race. As ethnic cleansing, you target different tribe.
Okay.
Like, Rwanda and Burundi, you had Hutus and Tutsis. And it goes further. It also goes in the ancient, biblical history. But East Africa was more traumatic and terrible because it was targeting the small tribes.
And you were one of the small tribes that were targeted. So let's touch on that. What tribe did you come from, and what is it that actually ended up happening?
I came from, a nomadic tribe. There are several, different part of Africa, East Africa, let me put it, East Africa, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Somalia. My tribe is, is in different areas. But I come from a small ethnic tribe called Marehan. Marehan springs from Somalia and Ethiopia and part of Kenya on eastern part.
Okay.
And in early, 80s, there was some tribal, political thing. I started with a small plant we grow in Africa, or East Africa normally. We call it, the Horn of Africa.
Okay.
It's called Mira or cat, It's more like a coca plant. And that is very expensive plant, sold in Western world, for a lot of money. So these tribes were fighting for the economic, control. And the government, split, and they started, killing each other because of the control. Unfortunately, my tribe happened to be targeted because we own most of the land, and the bigger tribes wanted to control it. And there were armies, army in the Somalia territory, which was more stronger than, the tribe. They had, guns. We had, spears and arrows.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah. It wasn't going to really work out easy for you guys, huh?
No. So I can recollect because I was young, but most of the time they invaded the village. They would come and burn the village. And they were targeting the male and young boys. Those were captured. Women and the small girls were taken as hostages. And there were also some sexual abuse. I witnessed my sister and my younger, my father was married to two women. So they were taken also. So during that night of raid, my father threw me out so that I can escape, the capture, and he sacrificed himself, to be captured, and later, he was killed. So we traveled. Most of the time, we traveled at night, because we couldn't travel during the day. Daytime, we sleep.
Did you know where you were headed when you were traveling? Like, so your father sacrifices his life. Your family members are being killed. You're about how old this time, by the way?
Who?
How old were you at the
I was
time?
very young, I just passed, the passage of rights, meaning that I was circumcised. I was between 16 and 18.
Okay, so you're really young. And so when you escaped, did you have any idea where you're just in the middle of an African desert, just walking aimlessly, or did you have like a destination in mind? Like,
No, well, yeah, we knew where we were going as young, because as nomads you have to follow, the heavenly bodies, that sun, moon, and the direction where you're going, and also the hills and the mountains and the rivers. But also we had some, animals like dog, which was, was helping us for the enemies, and.
And so you guys escaped. You said you would travel by night, sleep by day.
Sleep during the by day, and we fight like caves or foxes holes, so we can hide ourselves.
Were you being like apprehended, chased by these tribes that are trying to kill you, that were killing people in your village at that point in time, or were you just fighting the elements at that point in time, like heat, wild animals? What was going on during that period of time?
To put it in words, Mr. Mason, is painful. You hear, tropical Africa, especially the northern part of Africa. The sun sometimes get 120 with humidity, and no food and water. You have to travel far to get water. That water was precious, and you smell. That's why you have to have, dogs and donkey. They smell water. But we couldn't have donkeys. We are escaping. And if, let me say, like we are 100, almost 3/4 will be captured.
Really?
Yeah. And the capture was a death sentence. We travel in caravans, talking of caravans of 50 people. Those who are captured or who are escaping, over 3,000 traveling through the desert.
Yeah.
And they went up in places like Akuma, was a World Health Organization camps, and there was open, camp, like detention centers.
So it's like a refugee camp, but
yeah, refugee camp. The Duma, Kakuma, that is northern part of Kenya.
And how long did it take you to reach those places?
It took us 6 months.
So you escaped in the middle of the night and traveled for 6 months after that, just to live.
Yeah.
And I know you brought this up the first time, but there's wild animals out there that you have to be. Leopards, lions, things of that nature that can threaten your life on top of the tribes trying to kill you. Correct?
Yeah. The most deadliest animal I can say we scare is like leopard. Lion male won't affect you. Unless you bother it. A female will. Snakes will have, you have to know the plants, to smear if they bite you. And with a dog and a hen, you can be able to overcome snakes, and reptiles.
And was that a particular challenge? Like, it's more than just being mindful and having to know about those things, like you said. Like, did you encounter these type of species on the way to the refugee camp?
Yes, we encounter, but when you are running away, we were not worried about animals. Animals, we can deal with them.
Yeah.
We were worried about the other tribes. Because with the other tribes, there is for a male, and especially a young boy, either you turn to be an extremist, soldier, and they brainwash you because you are young, and you become a killing machine. Or your life was dead. If you come from certain tribe and you don't give the secrets, they torture you with a hammer. They beat you with the fingers.
That's what happened to your hand?
And the head. and they put objects like spears behind,
Yeah.
abuse, sodomize you with a horse, metal.
Yeah.
So it's hard to explain, but going through process of forgiving have helped me to grow. I can see what is going on even today at Nigeria, Boko Haram. Somalia is the same way. Part of it, Ethiopia, between Tigray and Ethiopia, is the same ethnic cleansing. And most people who suffered are women and children.
So you're saying that you've learned forgiveness from the people that have tortured you, and you learned to forgive the ones that wiped out your tribe and family members? You found that part of you to be able to forgive that?
Yeah, you have to. It's the most painful experience, knowing that I had 15 brothers and I had only 3 of them remaining. The rest of them were killed, tortured. So I could not live with that. When I look back at Burundi, the present president of Rwanda and Burundi, Rwanda is Kagame. And Kagame went through, those torture. But when he became president, he had to form a committee, the healing committee, organize, the tribes, the community to speak about the atrocity. Otherwise, the country won't heal. I have to do it for the sake of my son. I have to do it for the sake of my future.
Sure.
And also the population.
Sorry to interrupt you. My apologies. I just wanted to, a couple of things. How many people were in the tribe before it got, kind of ransacked and burned and pillaged by the people coming in and invading? And how big was your family as well before you had to take off on foot to get out of there to, save your own life and whoever else was around?
The tribe, my tribe at the time was about over 3 million. Right, the last time I checked was less than 1 million. My family was over 75, including my uncles, my father's family. The last time I had, we were less than 30.
Wow.
So, and sometimes they don't give you the number, because it's, they try to keep it secret, so you don't die spiritually. See, when I tell you that, almost 3/4 died, that means you are dying spiritually. You see yourself no hope.
Yeah.
But if I say you have some left, you have something to work on.
Got it. And back touching on that forgiveness part, it's taken you years to even reach that, right? And so you weren't operating in the place of forgiveness at that point in time. This was later in your life, but now you just touched on hope. When you're marching through the desert for 6 months, trying not to be captured, fighting the elements, wild animals to get to a refugee camp. I mean, did you have any hope? Is that what kept you marching for 6 straight months?
Yeah. When my father gave me up, he told me, live for tomorrow, live for me. Make sure you bring my name back. He told me, make sure you bring my name back.
And he knew he was going to die as he's telling you this?
Yeah, that was his last minute. And he says also, Mbugua, what you cannot control, you have to let it go. What you cannot control, you have to let it go.
Sure.
Meaning hate will consume you. Resentment will consume you. And if people hate you, they are teaching you to look up to God. So those words have kept me even today.
From a young boy till as we sit here today.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, wow. He gets me with some deep stuff from time to time, man. Kind of throws me off, not to make a joke of it. So you arrive at this refugee camp, and you're running on a basically hope and trying to take pride in carrying your father's name. did you know what the plan was at that point in time? You just sought refuge there. Was it a safe space? Were you happy when you finally were arriving there? Did you feel any sense of relief, or was that a nightmare as well?
There was hope
Okay.
because I met other people. I met other survivors. And with the unity, knowing what we have, gone through, we encourage one another. I think I told you some time back, if you have never been a mess, you have no message. If you have never been tested, you have no testimony. You cannot be trusted. And those young men and those young women who could not move forward, they prayed with us and they gave us blessings.
Mm.
We were one tribe. Again, we were suffering. If I tell you, I'll tell you being which is the hottest area in California?
Probably Death Valley.
Death Valley.
Yeah.
Think about in Death Valley, over 120. At least you can find water. Think about that 2 times, and children are crying. Women are crying. There are no place for, toilets, or 3 or few toilets. Food is scarce. There is also abuse in the camp. Kakuma, Dodoma, it's over 300,000 sometimes refugees living in tents. I want you to Google it. It was a torture.
The refugee camp was complete torture.
Yeah.
By the people running it, or the people in it, or both?
Both. You see, when you are there, you also have some extremists, those who come to infiltrate.
To try to brainwash some of the refugees.
Yeah, and take them away. Those who try to teach them, teach them what you call the Muslim, teachings. They want to take them to Mandarasa. The ISIS and the Boko Haram, they stem from those kind of camps. The young boys are vulnerable. When you are young, it's easier to change you. It's like a tree. You can't change it when it's grown up. You can bear it when it's small. That's how they try to infiltrate and mess up your minds. Even in gangs, they don't try to recruit the old people. They recruit the young ones, those they can teach and teach them to be animals.
Did you experience that yourself? Like, were you coming close to being brainwashed or recruited, or you just saw that around you and you were lucky to not be in that situation?
Every day we went through that. But there is a voice of my father, the spirit of my father died, physically, but spiritually he was still with me.
Yeah.
Even the most, torturous times I still resisted. Even the worst tortures I still resisted. Because I knew, the promise I had, the bond I had with my father. I can recall and remember the burning, the cry of those I left behind. And you are the only, light for the family. You are the only hope.
Were you still with some of your family members when you got to the refugee camp?
No.
You were
we
alone?
were in different camps, It's a big one. There's Kakuma, there's the Dodoma, the Roma. There's different camps, 10, 15 radius. They know they have to separate you because we have tribal scars. They know.
That's what's right here?
Yeah, that's the tribal scar. And yeah, they know. So they have to separate you. And when you speak, they know the dialect.
Wow. So now at this point in time, you're surviving being recruited. You're surviving abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, everything inside of those camps. I follow you correctly? How did you end up making it to America? Actually, even before that, how long did you stay in these camps and had to suffer that after suffering 6 months through the desert?
You see, I am spiritual. I love God.
Yes.
When you have faith in God, God will send you angels. And I was also blessed with, as a nomadic tribe, you have to learn languages quickly. dialects quickly. So I learned quickly about the Kenyan dialects, and I started befriending some of, police officers who are working at the camp. And one of them, we became friends, and he started helping me to get the status for refugee, to get out of the camp and to come abroad.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how I was, fortunate. I had a family, then they sponsored to come here in San Diego.
So you're all the way in Africa at this camp, and you met and you befriended the guard, and so you're there for a few months at the camp, and then you got refugee status in America, and so there was a family that was willing to take you in out here in California and San Diego.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to get here after they accepted you? Like, how did you?
It took about like a year. When you have papers, then they move you from the main camp to a better place where you can eat and have showers. They prepare you.
You didn't have showers and stuff at the other camp?
No.
Jeez. Okay.
No. Shower was foreign.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're just there in the heat, and they're outdoor tents, and you said it's 120 degrees?
Fight for water, food. It's survival, it's not living.
No.
You are existing.
Did you ever have, and this might be like I don't know, I wanted to ask this. Did you have time to sit and process everything, or was it just you just constantly in this fight or flight moment and survival? Like, when, I guess what I'd like to know is, when was there a time for you to sit back and process everything that you have gone through, everything that you had witnessed?
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
When you live from one level to the next level, then you have time to relax, But it is also a process, because you are also thinking about others, and you are experiencing nightmares, constantly waking up, because those things followed me until even when I came here.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not something, there are times even also I think about it. Those things stay with you.
It's like PTSD.
It's like PTSD, even worse, because you are experiencing rape, death, torture. It's not that you are hearing, you see it. They make sure you see it, so that if you don't want to comply with what they are saying, you are next. That was inevitable.
So you finally come to America at this point. So you basically, I want to make sure I actually understand this first. So you basically didn't have time to process things. You're just moving.
Yeah.
Surviving, that's it.
Surviving.
By the time you got to America, did you think finally the nightmare's over?
There was a sense of freedom.
There was a sense. But that wasn't the case, was it?
Yeah. You see, when you look at the animals during the, migration, like in Serengeti or Buseli, you see the animals which are powerful have the power to get to the water streams, and also to get to their prey, like lions, cheetahs, elephants.
Yeah.
But the ones which are weak, and sometimes they are, have had accidents, they wait back so they can be able to cross. So when you cross over the river, there is hope. I crossed my river Jordan when I left the camp.
Yeah.
In a way I had freedom, physical freedom. I won't say spiritual freedom or emotional freedom, but I knew physically I'm free. I'm out of torture. I'm out of bondage.
Yeah. And so you're here in America. I'm sure you're happy to be here, but I know your story. People watching this don't. So we know very well that the nightmare didn't end for you in America. So what ended up happening? Because you now survived genocide and everything you just explained. And you ended up on Skid Row addicted to heavy drugs, right? But how did that start? You didn't just immediately end up on Skid Row. You arrived with this family in San Diego, and what happened?
The next chapter of my life was the most painful.
More painful than surviving the cleansing, not the genocide, the ethnic cleansing. Okay.
Knowing you are in a camp and inevitable is about to happen. You are prepared for it. But when you think you are free and then you end up being in danger, it's worse experience because there is no turning back. At least in the camp, I might see a tribal woman, a tribal young man or somebody, or even some people from Kenya or officers who can converse with me. But in a foreign country, not knowing how to go back, there are no rivers to cross. There is no Mount Kenya. There is no Mount Kilimanjaro. You know, you are on the other side of the ocean. It was painful. So I ended up in San Diego, a family which gave me a place to stay. The first few months was good, but it ended up to be a torture, you know, abusive. You know, they couldn't understand me, and the language was a problem.
Like verbally abusive?
Yeah, physically and verbally.
Yeah.
But you know, when you are going through that, then you think how you were tortured before.
So it brings all that
Yeah,
those same feelings up.
It brought not only the feelings but the pain. I had to escape at night. I didn't know where I was going.
So you just leave the house.
I leave the house.
Yeah.
It's like jumping from the claws of a tiger to the jaws of a lion. I kept on running. Fortunately, you know, God always have help for you. I encountered a Spanish family who were traveling to Los Angeles. Then again, they had, you see, as a nomad, you know, you don't use your, you know, brain sometimes. You use your heart.
Okay.
You know, spiritual discernment. You see, when a child smiles at you, a child don't smile by lips.
Yeah.
No, a child smiles with the eye, with his or her eyes, and you can see the beauty of love and, you know, affection. So I knew these are, you know, true human beings, because even when we didn't understand language, they'll find me something to eat, or write down Los Angeles, and give me clothes. We stopped, bought me clothes, you know, and try to calm me down. Then they draw me at the mission. I didn't know where to go. They didn't know what else they can do, but to tell me mission will help me.
So you're saying you ran away from home with a different family, and you still didn't speak English at this time at all?
No.
And you ended up downtown Los Angeles at one of the missions? At Skid Row?
Yeah.
Okay.
With only the clothes I had on the back, even documents, I didn't have anything.
Nothing?
No. I had to run.
Because it was that abusive?
Yeah. I could not tolerate. You know, I was ready to die. That time, there was no doubt about it.
So that hope that you were saying that kept you going through 6 months and then all the refugee camp, that was kind of gone because you were like, I'll die now.
Yeah. It was inevitable, but I was not going to stay in the same fire. So the story of skidrow, it's expansive, but I don't know how you want to hear it, you know, how you want to summarize it, you know, because it's a lot. We can stay here the whole day talking about it.
Skid Row.
And sometimes there are things I'm not saying because I have to, they are painful.
No, we still got some time.
Okay.
So you can get as painful as you want to get. It's up to you, man. But we'll start with you arriving there, because you, for the record, you've been sober for how long now?
I have been sober. September 10 will be 24 years.
Okay, so you've been sober for 24 years, and you didn't end up on Skid Row addicted to crack, PCP,
no,
alcoholic. Okay.
Yeah, but I was I was chewing cut, you know, in Africa, East Africa, Kenya.
It's like the cocoa plants you were talking about.
Like a cocoa.
It's kind of like cocaine.
Yeah.
So you were kind of addicted to that already, but that's not what you came. That's not what you got addicted. So you were on Skid Row, not as most people envision being on Skid Row. You were just escaping something, and you end up in one of the worst places you can argue in Los Angeles. Correct? So what happens now? No documents, no money, nowhere to go. You're just at a mission, can't speak English. Let's just start there.
Skid Row is survival. Skid Row is like Serengeti. In Serengeti or Abuseli, animals are territorial. They know each other's territory. You know, and in Skid Row, that blessings from nomadic tribe helped me. You know, you can discern people, the bad ones and the good ones. I was not into drugs, heavy drugs at the time, but I learned, to smoke, to drink alcohol. And also in skidrow, I met some Somalians and Sudanese who have come to this country through refugee camp. And they also came through those wars. Because of the PTSD, they were having different issues. And sometimes some of them, we befriended with them. But also, I like skidrow because there was no responsibility.
None.
No.
You just do what you want when you want.
Yeah, it's a survival, and I knew how to survive, There was, I'll say, acquaintances I met, who helped me. And when people are desperate, you find friends. You have people who are human. They know what you are going through. They will assist you. And I also used to go at the mission, to eat. And that's the time, during that time, I befriended a young man, his name was Shori, and every time you see me and you call me and say, oh, gee, I didn't know what he was talking about. Speaking English was foreign, but I learned something, and I want to tell those who are outside there that, who say they cannot learn anything or they cannot go to school. You see, I couldn't speak English, but I knew how to read and write. So during my, my daily businesses of correcting cans, I bought myself a radio. And I listen the radio English. I know the vowels, A, B, C.
Yeah.
And I bought myself a newspaper sometimes, LA Times, and I'll read, I'll listen, and then I'll write. Slowly I started understanding English, and one of my acquaintances who helped me.
Yeah.
I was teaching him also Swahili.
So it's like an exchange. You was teaching you English, you taught him Swahili.
Yeah.
So when you were on Skid Row, you were staying sometimes when there was a bed at whatever mission, or otherwise you would just be on the streets?
Yeah. From mission to mission, LA mission, Union Rescue Mission, Midnight Mission, Salvation Army, Fred Jordan. Sometimes you go outside the town, you stay at the abandoned buildings underneath the bridge. I like to stay underneath the bridge because I could see the sky.
Really?
And there was nobody except me and my dog. I had a dog, I used to call him Zulu.
Really?
Yeah, he was very friendly. I love dogs.
Yeah.
That's the best friend, who will let you know when you have enemy. Never leave you.
So what were you doing? How were you surviving when it comes to kind of like money and things like that? You would get your meals at the mission, and then where would you have means for survival?
We recycle cans and bottles.
Okay.
Yeah, we will go to recycle cans and bottles. Sometimes I used to come on Rabrea and Pico. They'll pick us up for manual labor, get $20, $50, sometimes over the weekend or during the day. Then I'll go back to downtown or hang around. I made, acquaintances. I'll meet some guys from Belize, people from Jamaica, even some Kenyans, those who are living on the street here.
And so, how long were you down there surviving, learning, getting odd jobs here and there before the drugs and that worst torture you touched on briefly started? How long did it take you?
It took some few years to few months to years. Then at the 80s, at the time, the challenges became overwhelming. And I always say, I look back, I say, when you hang with the eagles, you soar high, but when you hang with the ducks, you stay grounded. I was, hanging with the ducks. Sometimes, challenges, you compromise. I compromised for my discipline. I left my God on the streets, and I was introduced to crack, and I love it because my pain won't go away. Then I was introduced to sham stick because, they
PCP.
dip, PCP.
Yeah.
That was my joy.
That was
you
your
know?
joy.
Yeah.
Did you tell me you used to be Kobe Bryant with the crack rock? Right?
Yeah,
Why?
that one, I didn't share my crack or PCP.
Yeah.
I used to smoke it on Normandy and Washington, the cemetery.
Yeah.
You know, I used to, dead people don't ask, you
Yeah.
know.
Dead
I was
people don't
still
ask.
yeah.
But
I
no
was
one could
still-
take the crack rock for you like Kobe in the fourth
No.
quarter.
No, my crack, you know, I was like Kobe Bryant,
Yeah.
holding the ball last seconds. He couldn't share it. Nobody. Nobody, you know. That was my precious gift. You know.
Yeah.
You see, now I can look back and laugh about it.
Of course.
You know, it's
Thank God.
yeah. But you know, the journey took me some times. You know,
Yeah.
and I spent, I would say I wasted life almost 20 years.
Just existing for 20 years
You know,
on PCP and crack?
PCP, crack. But you know, I learned also my English improved.
Mm.
I went to occupational school
Yeah.
downtown on Venice and Olive. From there, I went to LA Trade Tech. You know, and I was, you know, now I was very heavy on drinking alcohol,
Mm.
you know, and also occasionally smoking crack. And I happened to graduate.
Even on crack and
Wait,
PCP?
so you were going to trade school and doing
Yeah.
all of that while you were smoking crack and smoking Sherm and an alcoholic and living on the streets essentially.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll get, you know, shelters,
Yeah.
you know, and I manage, you know. But there was a time, you know, things didn't go well. See, I went back to street. That was around 96 and the beginning of 97.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went back to a skidrow, I went from mission to mission, and finally at the Union Rescue Mission, that's when I met, you know, a chaplain and Shorty. You know, Shorty always, you know, wanted to help me. Shorty had finished the program already, and now he was, you know, working over there. And, you know, I thank God for people like Shorty, you know, and thank God for Chaplain Mbugua at Union Rescue Mission. But let me go back a little bit.
Yeah.
September 10, let me say September. One morning I went there. I was lost. I was painful. In 12 step, they says when you hit the rock bottom, there was nowhere else to turn to. You see, I died spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
I was dead, you know, physically depleted, emotionally wasted. And at my lowest, he looked at me and said, oh, gee, you want to go up.
What does go up mean?
He wanted me to go to the program.
Mm.
And, you know, at that time, you have to stay at the chapel for 2 weeks. You know, I resisted, and for some reason, I came back. After I finished eating my donut, coffee, I came back. And he was waiting for me. And I said, yeah. Then he came with a big, tall, white guy. That was Chaplain Mbugua. And he looked at me, and he started talking to me in Swahili.
Hmm.
You know, I said, wait a minute. You know, where you from?
Yeah.
You know, he was fluent, you know, in Swahili.
Yeah.
I was scared. I said,
You're like, what?
you know,
You're white.
yeah.
You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, and also, it's the way he pronounced the
dialect?
The dialect and an alphabet. And he knew my tribe, and we started talking, and then trust came in.
Hmm.
And he told me to come. I didn't even wait for 2 weeks. I entered the program. That was September 10, 1997. The sad part of it, you know, and I'm escaping a lot of things.
Yeah.
The sad part of it, that afternoon, you know, this young man gave me his clothes, gave me his bottom bank, and also told me that, you know, because he was going out to come and go to church on Sunday, he hugged me, and that was during the end of the month, and they were getting checks. That was the last time I saw him. He overdosed at MacArthur in a motel. with crack.
Jesus, man.
And like my father, that was another person entered in my life like my father. I promised myself, I would do something for Shori and my father to impact lives.
So it gave you a new sense of purpose at that point in time? Because you lost your hope and your resolve for a long period of time. Especially, obviously, you're running around for years on hooked on crack and PCP, right? And you finally had that, I don't know, what did you call it, like a moment of clarity or something like that, where you decided to make some sort of change, and that was your new driving force? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and at that point, I was mad at God. I was angry.
When you were getting sober, you were angry at God, or the
No.
whole time you were using drugs?
No, during my my addiction life,
Yeah.
we were communicating.
Okay.
I had a religion communication, and I want to explain this clearly.
Yeah.
We were communicating, and at this juncture, I was mad at him because he have taken my angel. He have taken my father. I was mad at him. I was like Job. I asked him, I can't live here. You have to bless me. You have to tell me where I'm going. That is when you have a breakthrough, spiritual breakthrough. It's okay, Mason, to be upset with God.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay for you to be upset with your father. My son sometimes get upset with me. It's okay. That means you have a relationship. You don't get upset from somebody you don't know. He get upset at you because you see what you are doing is not right. He holding you accountable. That means that person cares about you. And I was upset. 2 years later, my youngest sister was gang raped and contracted HIV. She had it for a year. Here I am. It's like the book by Chinua Achebe, turning and turning in the widening gap. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is lost upon the world. This where two-way meets, which passes a stranger, where one knows his true friend and knows the relationship of God. It was at that point I had a spiritual breakthrough.
What was that like?
What do you mean you had a spiritual? What does that mean, spiritual breakthrough?
When I became a baby, when I took the first step, when I realized unmanageability is not physical or emotions, it was spiritual. That is when I reach out to God and ask Him, help me, show me the way. I was going to Cal State LA to do engineering, mechanical engineering, but I was void. My heart was void. I didn't want to do it no more, But at that time, I went to social work department and I met a professor, Anshula. She teaches at Cal State LA, and she was also going to New York University, but her mother and parents were Holocaust survivors, and she changed her major to be a social worker, and she told me, try to be a social worker. That's when my life turned around, and I found my path. I found the path that my father told me. I found the path to reach out to the humanity. I found my path, which I call, I say the spiritual breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
I had a calling. You see, in Christianity or in Judaism or any spiritual ministry, some people can go to school, become ministers or pastors and rabbis. but there are those who are called by God. Men appoint, God calls. When you have a calling, you are fighting for a mission. You have a journey. You don't have destination. You have a journey to fulfill. That is when my journey started.
Did you feel relief when you felt
Yeah.
that powerlessness finally, because you could just stop? You could stop the fighting, and you felt more or less kind of liberated in that surrender. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I surrendered and I felt free for once in my life.
Yeah.
Spiritually, I felt free. There was hope. I knew there would be challenges, but there was nothing. There was no mountain to hold me down. There was no mountain.
And did you see it that way because of the so-called mountains you had to climb to even get to that point? The death you experienced, the torture you experienced, the abuse you experienced, the addiction you experienced. You said if I've survived this, you kind of change your perspective on those events and kind of let that empower you, so you could be, I guess, as you're saying, a tool to reach out for others. Is that kind of the shift that happened?
You see, like I said, I didn't say there was a time I was smoking crack at Dose High School. There is a park over there, and we were fighting for the last bro. We call it Mbugua, and this group or these guys we had, I was hanging around with, beat me to death, and they thought, I died. They put me on a trash can on Jefferson and Rabrea behind a dental center. There is a trash can. They put me over there. They thought I died.
So they beat you so bad they thought this guy's dead. It's
And
over.
They threw you in one
In
of
the
the trash
can.
bins.
Yeah. Then around 5 a.m., I had this, thing get lifted. I was thinking I was in my apartment, and I was asking who is knocking at my door.
Yeah.
When I raise up myself, the top, cover,
The dumpster.
dumpster raises up, and the guy who was lifting up saw me.
Yeah.
And he dropped it. He thought it was a ghost, and I got outside, I was half naked.
Yeah.
Then at the corner of La Brea and Jefferson, I started panhandling,
Half naked panhandling.
yeah, sick mind, disease, I got money, then I went to the jungle to get my PCP and my crack, and I was happy with that. When I look all that, how I survived, however, what you call now, dying because of fentanyl,
Yeah.
Overdosing, also, left for dead. There was a reason God gave me a second chance. I knew the way I survived from the desert, the Kakuma and the Dodoma, refugee camp. God had a reason for me to be here today. And Mason, if you had told me that I'll have family, I would have told you crazy, man. Whatever you're smoking might be the right dope. I didn't believe that, because I was through my head, I couldn't trust I can love somebody. I never saw myself being a father again. It was too painful to see my father give me away and have a child to raise it and telling him that. But once you start the process of healing, when you do 12 steps, not religiously, when you do the steps are spiritual. When you read the step 1, that is 2 Chronicles chapter 7 verse 14, when God tells Solomon, if my people who are called by my name will turn away from their wicked ways and come to me, I'll forgive them and give them life back. Or in the Synoptic Gospel, the book of Luke, the story of prodigal son, he went and wasted his wealth, and he was eating with the pigs, and he realized those living in my father's house, even the servants are living better. He started a journey to go back. His father saw him from a distance and hugged him. He was not reminding him the smell. He was not asking what you did. That was my life.
What types of results were you getting, right? Like I was just thinking back and of like everything that I've gone through, right? And I think, it's pale in comparison to the, the shoes and the life that you have lived and walked, right? However, like when somebody's dealing with their own things, it's difficult. Anybody's journey can be difficult, right? Especially one of a drug addict or an alcoholic. But with everything that you had gone through, with you going and taking these spiritual steps and actions, what types of results were you getting? And how quickly or how slowly were they manifesting in your life? Because one of the other things that I know I've struggled with, I think Mason's also struggled with, I think many people as humans struggle with, is they try to get rooted in this new different lifestyle or try doing things differently than they've never done than the status quo of being a drug addict for 20 years. I was running around for 10, 12 years myself doing things. Is that sometimes you lose faith along the process because the things aren't materializing the way that you think they should be, when in actuality, like, that's what having faith really is believing something is going to change by, the connection that you have or doing the steps differently. It's an organic thing. It takes time. But I would like to know in your life, when did those kind of manifest and when did you really have that kind of light bulb go off in your head and say, this is a path that really could work for me? Like you said, even in the beginning, if Mason were to tell you were going to be married and have children and lead this different life, you would have been like, you're nuts, right? So when did those things kind of happen and manifest in your journey?
That is a very, very good question. One thing, you have to go through the process. Recovery, as for me, was emotional, spiritual, and physical. Physical was easier because my life changed from life of addiction to a life of, healthy life. But then I have to process the emotions, the anger. When you walk the 12 steps, it's a marathon, it's a journey, it's not a destination. And you don't rush. You take, when you're doing steps or when you are recovering, there is sobriety and recovery. When you are in recovery, you don't expect things to go instantly. I'm not sitting here as a saint. I made mistakes. I still make mistakes. But I know to go back to my toolbox. I started listening. I was open to be taught. I started having a relationship with God. We became friends. I started opening to other people, not being judgmental. I cleansed myself from prejudice, hate. Hate was the most complicated thing in my heart, and resentment. And I started releasing that weight out of me. It took me time to do my 9-step. I did it, I was sober, but I didn't process it. And I told you earlier one day when I was taking my son, before I even go there, and when I started, going through this process, it's like a little child. When they are born, they start crawling. Then they start holding the chair, the table to stand up. As a father, you hold them with your arms or legs. I had sponsors, several of them, until I was left to the one I trusted. And a mentor. He's now a chaplain at Union LA Mission. He started letting me know things which I'll go through and things I will, overcome challenge, and start teaching me how to love myself first. Not to love others, love yourself first, because self-esteem was affecting me.
course.
Yeah, there was a lot of guilty conscience. When a man sees a woman and you remember you are sodomized, with the objects, those things, they'll haunt you. You see, I cannot live in the past.
No.
No, I have to learn to live in the present. I can't force the past, the tomorrow, the future.
Yeah.
No, I cannot force the future. I learn to live the present. Those things, when you understand them, then you start living like a human being. Also, there is something also my grandfather used to tell me. Honesty is a precious gift. Don't expect it from cheap people. I cannot share. I think for me, Mason, to be here today, it's because I have a lot of trust and respect for you. I saw you as a child, not physically,
Yeah.
but in age of, recovery. And I seen your growth. You are like my son.
Yeah.
If I sacrifice this time for you to leave him and tell him I have an appointment with, Mason for 2-3 hours,
Yeah.
that means it's something I respect. Honesty is precious. You don't give it away. People who are helping you, people who are advising you, taking you to another level. And also, this is 12 step. Giving back. This message is not for me. No, this message, I hope somebody outside there will benefit from it. You see, this week was so painful.
Yeah.
Because I lost a very precious young man.
We did yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday. Young men I saw go through the program. But we cannot change those who don't want to change.
Yeah.
They explain in big book, page 89 and 90. You can't force anybody to change.
No.
No, you have to wait for them when they have an opportunity to change or they are willing to change. And to answer your question, it was a process. Opening my heart was a process. Starting to listen was a process. Starting to love like a little baby was a process. Because love was not there for me.
Never.
No.
From the moment that your that was probably the last act of love that you experienced for a very long time. That him giving his life for you obviously is an act of love. And you went a couple decades without even receiving that. Correct?
And I received him back. That's how God works. When my son was born,
Yeah.
I named him King.
Okay.
Because my father was a king in my life.
Mm.
I promised myself when he will be born, I'll name him a king. He's called Malik Juguna Mbugua, named after my father.
Wow.
My ministry is named after my sister from the scripture of Genesis. When Abraham was going to sacrifice for his son, and God told him, there is a lamb in the bush. She is my lamb in the bush.
And that's the name of your organization.
Yeah.
A Lamb in the Bush. And you told me you named that after your sister, though, and she died of HIV/AIDS after the gang rape, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so now let's start touching on that. So you now started to get sober through that program. You've been sober about coming up on 24 years.
Yeah, September 10, 24 years.
24 years.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you? What you're doing now? You work where I met you, where I went through treatment at Chabad.
Mm-hmm.
Then I worked with you, fantastic, at Chabad as well. But you also are down on Skid Row with your organization. So how long did it take you to start doing that type of work? Because you tell me this that Skid Row is a Serengeti. So not only were you getting high there, but then you were recovering there, which is wild. Because outside your doorstep is the same place as you were getting high, right?
Mm-hmm.
How long did that take to start putting forth that work? You were starting to learn to love yourself first, and then you got to a place where you loved yourself enough to help other people. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, as I said before, it's a journey.
Mm-hmm.
You mature. You see, not every prophet was like Abraham and Elisha.
Mm-hmm.
We are all different. Not every teacher is a professor. They grow. But most importantly, going to skidrow is 3 parts. First part is to give back to those who are suffering. Secondly, there are meds I needed to make. There are people I needed to give back to, and I could not see them. Those people I met in the camps,
Mm-hmm.
you know, those who helped me, those who showed me a way,
Mm-hmm.
you know, those who gave me an opportunity. And also, the third part is forgiveness, healing. When I go there, I remember those who tortured me, those who took me through pain, even the family which gave me problems and to the point of running away.
Did you ever see them again? Those people?
No, I never wanted to go back there again because.
But you
know,
still forgave them.
Yeah, I forgive them and I move forward. Yeah.
So it's a spiritual type of forgiveness that you don't have to hear "I'm sorry" from them or anything to let it go. That you did that on your own terms.
Yeah.
I just asked that because there's a lot of people that watch this. I mean, you have such an extreme form of pain, right? And so I think the point is, I'm sure most people watching this don't experience that level of extreme, but you being able to forgive people that have sexually abused, physically abused, tortured you, all that type of stuff, killed, if you're able to do such, then they can let go of that in their heart. So I'm kind of curious of the process. You don't go back and face those people and ask for forgiveness to feel better. How do you do that? Where's your mind and heart at to be able to forgive such extreme forms of like hurt that's been put upon you?
Most importantly is prayer and meditation. You know, when you think of pain, you subconsciously will be affected.
Mm-hmm.
When you think you are thirsty, you have, look for water. When you think of anything negative, that's what you manifest.
Mm-hmm.
But when you think of something positive, there is nothing evil I'll gain from it. And we'll go back. You see, healing, you have to have a conversation.
Okay.
You have to open a dialogue. I mentioned Kagame in Burundi. In Rwanda.
Mm-hmm.
He had to open a reconciliation committee to talk about, the atrocity that happened. And even to go to the enemies and to forgive them.
No.
I can't go back to the camp. The only thing I can do now is to reconcile with those in skidrow and those who are suffering in addiction by giving them my message. And there are those who affected me, those who I can see, my family member. Remember, when you are captured, somebody had to tell on you. Before you were sold out, somebody had to betray you. And I said it took me a long time to forgive, one of the family members, until one day my phone rang and my son, I was taking him to school, and he picked up the phone and he looked at it. I said, this one look like you. I almost had an accident. On 52nd and Crenshaw, there is a laundromat I parked inside, and I took him to school, and I came back and, I called my mother. And my mother told me, my mother is still living, 98 years old.
Wow.
She's the most important thing in my life. So she told me, if you want your life, if you want your son, make sure you call. And you tell that person you forgive them. And you ask them to forgive you. That's when I did my 9th step. I processed my 9th step. Then I told my son who the person was. And I let him call him. And today they are friends. When he went back home, he went and visited them and the family.
And so that put you in a position to be able to help people dealing with extreme amounts of pain in their own lives. And that's your mission now.
Yeah, and also mission and everyone who is hearing today, there are people you can't go, and also it teaches you in 12 steps. There are areas you can't go if it will harm you or harm them.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be very cautious, but you have to process that in one way or the other. Because if you don't heal that wound, it's like cancer. And that's why you see most of us relapse. Some of us have been sober, dry drunk for years. And that pain is still lingers in your heart. There are people who might have molested you, whoever you are there. There might be people who have abused you, who have taken you something from you, who called you names you didn't want to listen. You know, and that is what you see, what is happening in this country. Because we are cleaning the carpet on the top and putting the dirt underneath. There is no discussion. And then things keep on happening. These racial things keep on happening. It has to be discussed. Mason, you have to say, I'm an addict.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you go to shower, you don't go to take shower with your underwear.
No.
No, you undress yourself butt naked.
Yeah.
Because there are some areas you have to scratch. And sometimes it's painful and bad to look at.
Yeah.
You have to call a spade a spade.
Yeah. Call a spade a spade.
Yeah. If we sweep it, it'll keep on coming.
Yeah, it's still dirty.
What's the... So in LA, we have one of the largest homeless, populations in the country, as well as it's rampant with drug addiction. Also, there's a ton of mental illness out there, and I think, that's a whole different discussion. But what I want to ask you is, as being somebody that used to be on the streets and on Skid Row and addicted to drugs, to now being recovered with a family and having a nonprofit and all of these amazing things that you do, what's the commonality that you see on Skid Row with the people living there? Is it that they're just lost? Is there a mistrust with the resources that are available to them? What is the commonality that you see when you're doing reach out and trying to help people and spread the message that they're suffering from?
One thing, drug and alcohol is only less than 5%. Big percent is underlying issues. The homelessness is a political issue. That can be resolved within a month if people are sincere.
And you don't believe they're sincere?
No.
But are you talking about on a city level or
state level?
State level, even national level.
Yeah.
You see, there are some of us in our family, somebody, or I know one of a family member, we call them outcast or a dark horse, or we use language or label them.
Yeah, black sheep or whatever.
Black sheep.
Yeah.
We label them. But instead of looking at that person saying, what are the issues that we can help? How are we going to help? Taking them and putting them in an apartment or in a home is easier. But are you dealing with a disease? Are you dealing with the problems that that person is going through?
Well, I think the short answer is no.
No. It's easier to clean outside because you look outside nice and clean. How is inside? Because the garbage inside will go out. Somalia, the problem is still there. Nigeria, Boko Haram, they're still killing each other. Ethiopia, the problem was not resolved. Now there is bloodshed between Tigray and what? Ethiopia.
I know, but you got sober. So there are, to say that I'm not advocating either way. I just want to have a discussion with you because you're on the front lines. But there was something that reached you, and then you took action and did what you needed to do, and you've created, and the universe and God have created this life for you today. Is it that the resources aren't being adequately dispensed down there, or what is the main disconnect, I guess? Because I understand where my shortcomings and the journey that I had and the surrender that I had that allowed me to get to where I'm at today, but if it can be done in my life and in your life and in Mason's life and 100 other people that I know that are sober, it can also be transcended to everybody out there that's willing to have it. So I guess what I'm asking is, how is there a way to better dispense it or to go about helping those people that are struggling from something that we've overcome?
I'll put it plain and simple. Opposite of addiction is connection. We are not connecting with the homeless. There is no relationship with the homeless. Right now, the garbage they try to clean up because of COVID is the homeless. Look what happened to Makada Park when they went to clean up that place, because the other side of houses, they are expensive, but the other side is dirty because of the homeless. Instead of finding a way how they can help them to have transition to life. I transitioned, and it was a process. We want to clean up instantly. We deal with, microwave help. What I mean by microwave help, you drive through hamburger shop, store or hamburger place, McDonald's, get a hamburger in 3 minutes. You are full. But that food is, it wasn't cooked the way you like it or you want it to be cooked. There was no process for enjoying that food. We are cleaning them. The money there, we live in the United States. This is the most rich country in the world. But we are not addressing the issues. Like I said, we are cleaning them.
And that's what your organization is doing, is addressing the issues.
You have to go to the bottom. And I'm sorry, but I use this parable in the Bible. When some of the teachers of the law, the Sadducees and the Pharisees, it's the scripture is in Synoptic Gospel, they brought a woman who was an adulterer. She was a prostitute. And they say, we caught her, sleeping with another man, married. Then Jesus started writing on the ground. He went to the level of that woman and started scribbling down. Then you look up and say, anyone among you who have never sinned, let be the one to throw the stone. And one by one they left. And he was left with this woman. He went to her level and told her, go sin no more. That is a relationship. When we go to their level, have love and compassion, empathy, they understand. When I'm feeding a skidrow, when I park my van and I say I have water, I have food, I want to give you food, I don't start preaching to them. They're hungry. But the most important thing, those in skidrow, they will line up without me even telling them to line up. And they will tell me, there is one over there is a cripple. There is one over there cannot walk. And they'll take food to him or her. And the rest will follow. That is humanity. But I didn't go there calling them names and calling Scabby. I don't want you to touch my car. I don't want you to be near me. And there are some who want to hug me. I hug them. Because it reminds me when I went to fellowship and people came and hugged me when I was smelling like a brewery, stinking like a skunk. People who are not of my tribe, people who didn't look like me, and they give me a hug. That's what was planted in my heart. That is seed which was planted to me. Remembering that man in Echo Park, in downtown, without a teeth and smiling at me. That left me. They left something inside my heart. So when I reach them and they know, you don't dare go tell them you love them. They'll tell you, what are you talking about? You don't even know me. You love by action. Go back. And I said to Mason, forgive me, because I don't apologize to be a Christian. Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. I don't apologize for that, because without God, I wouldn't be here. You know, I don't tell anybody to be a Christian, but if you want to, I can help.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's your wish. You see, when Paul was saving, one time there were some actors who were trying to save a crazy man. And this is not, book of Acts of Apostles. And he said, Jesus, I know. Peter, I know. Who are you? Who are you? They knew it. You are an actor. You ain't got nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Eh? The police, the politicians, they cannot talk all they want. But those down there, they know. You are playing us for games and, politics.
And
You're
that's
not
why
sincere.
everything's so broken.
Yeah.
And so a lamb in the bush, which is in honor of your sister, you're doing what you can to address that disconnect. That's simply what a lamb in the bush does, correct?
Yeah.
Whether it's just going down there and just, you're not evangelizing, you're going down there just showing them kindness, which you didn't experience any sort of kindness for over 20 years. So I'm sure that's the same for a lot of people down there, correct?
Yeah, I saw my life at the age of 42 or 43.
You started your life at the age of 43.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there thinking it's always too late to change.
Yeah.
So I guess you would disagree that it's never too late, as corny as that sounds, right?
I didn't have no high school education. I taught myself. I finished 2 degrees. I'm going for master's. Age is just a number. And I want to say something quickly because of time. You know, it's a story. I think you might have heard about it. A young, an old man was walking at the beach with his son, and there were a lot of starfish on the shore.
Mm-hmm.
And he started throwing one by one back to the water. The son looked at him and said, "Dad, there's so many of them. Are you going to save all of them by picking one at one?" And he looked at his son and said, "If I take only one, give him life, that will help another one multiply. It will give birth to another one. Just help one. If you save one, that person will help to light the candle to the next one. If God touch you, mission, you don't put your candle underneath the table. You put it on top so others can see those who are in darkness."
The candle of light is what you're saying in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't hide it.
Yeah. I cannot look at how many numbers I'm saving. I'm looking at one. Today, I'm talking to you. When I saw you fast,
Just came out of jail into
I didn't know I
Chabad.
will be sitting here next to me.
No, I didn't know that either, man.
Yeah.
Went through a lot of things.
You are a miracle.
Thank you.
Yeah, you are a gem.
As are you.
Yeah.
As are you. You guys both at this table helped us be here right now. We wouldn't be here for doing what you did and for doing what you did. You guys have both had a tremendous impact on my life, showing me that things are possible. I went through so much of my life thinking things are just not possible. Like the idea, I'm supposed to say things are possible. I'm supposed to paint a facade that this is who I am, but it's just really just empty here. And so little by little, with your sayings, with your direction, it's just put it, I guess, lightly, is just, I see the world a bit differently. It's rather fulfilling, so I thank you guys both for that. Always. And one thing you always told me, and I think we could end on this, you can explain what it means. You said diamonds are not mined in Beverly Hills. What does that mean?
Diamonds are not mined in Beverly Hills. They are mined in the dirt. Kimberley mines, Johannesburg, Congo, and the other part of the of Africa. Meaning, what precious come from the dirt. They are diamonds in skidrow. But what matters most is the blacksmith. When that blacksmith put that gem inside the fire, he touched the knob. The heat go up. And he stay focused on that gem until you see it changes color. This when the color is changed, then you know this diamond is at the right to be precious, and he put it in a cool place. That's what you find in big stores. You are gem. You have to go through fire. You don't find precious gem in a rich place. You find them in the dirt when nobody give that gem. When they don't know what that is. Nobody, not any stranger can find gem.
Mm-hmm.
Only few. Only few. Those you see on skidrow, on streets, they are gem. There are a lot of gem. And that is subject which is not discussed, about race. Because there are a lot of gems in police officers.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of gems in all races. Good and evil is in every one of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I found gems. The people who mentored me are not the people who look like me. But they saw a gem in a scumbag.
Mm.
Mbugua saw a gem. Chaplain Salvaro saw a gem. Somebody else will see you a gem. You are a gem today because you're taking this message to those outside there. But the most important thing I want you to do is to tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Even if it's painful, even if you lose your status or your business, tell the truth.
Sure.
Because only the truth will set you free.
And that's the mission of Lamb in the Bush, to find the gems and the people that are forgotten, broken.
They are afflicted.
And they can, everyone watching, listening, your website is lambinthebush.org.
Yeah.
And they can go there, they can make donations so you could help find those gems, save some people's lives, connect with the people in the ways that the larger money politicians aren't. Is that safe to say?
That's true.
lambinthebush.org. You got anything to say to close?
Thank you for being vulnerable with us and sharing your incredible story. And, it's just been an honor and a privilege to get to know you a little bit more every time we do meet, and just continue fighting the good fight and keep on keeping on.
Thank you. And lastly, if it's not people like you, the world cannot be free. And I want to close with this. One time, Mother Teresa was asked in Delhi, in India, when you die, who represent you? Who help these people in Calcutta? And strangely, that's what is happening now in India. Millions are dying. But he says somebody, a scumbag like me, will take over.
A scumbag like me will take over.
Yeah.
All right. That's that for this episode. Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.